if you are looking to increase your energy, to regain your health, improve your health, this juicing is an amazing thing to do. And I asked my coach in an interview, what is the one thing that people can do to start gaining energy in their life? And she thought for a second and she said, start juicing. So if you take nothing from here, start juicing. And I used to think that's all good and dandy, but it's a big investment to buy a juicer. And I know when I did my reboot, I wanted to do it with a juicer and I didn't have the money to buy a juicer of any kind. Maybe not even, I don't think the juicer I was looking at was the Breville, and I think it was about $150, and that just wasn't coming together. And so I basically just upped how much vegetables I was eating because I really wanted to make a difference in my health. And we've given you some ideas of things that you can do over the week. You can make a big salad, a rainbow salad. You could take it to work. You can eat it anywhere, really. So there is the idea of having a soup, just putting beautiful vegetables into a pot, adding some broth or some water, and you could add some lentils to give it more protein, maybe something else. So there's all sorts of ways. Make a overnight oats, just have regular oats, make some energy bites so that you can get some things in. And yes, I forgot because I didn't do it this week. Use your blender to make a smoothie. Thank you, Juju. I appreciate that. And that's a great way. So if you don't have a juicer, number one, now the price of juicers is actually much more affordable than it used to be. And if you can use your blender to make a smoothie, you can take your blender and make a smoothie and then take out the juices, get out the pulp. But I think just if you're going to go to that trouble, just have the smoothie with all of the good fiber in it. The difference between the smoothie and the juice is the fiber. And I would also say, and Juju, I know you've got all this equipment and you do juicing and you do smoothies. If you are going to buy one piece of equipment, and this is an investment piece, I would say start with the blender. But if you are looking to really make changes to your health and you're going to do juicing is going to be your number one thing, then you could get a juicer. Now you can now buy juicers that are, I would say $150 to $200, $150 can get you a decent juicer nowadays. Yeah. Ooh, and you made a sumptuous vegetable soup yesterday. Oh, that sounds so good. Yum. Put whatever vegetables you like in it. And so I want to start by doing the juicing because I think the last time I did this, I ended with the juicing and we didn't have time for everything. What's the best juicer? We're going to go through all the different types of juicers that you can have or buy. And the best juicer is the one that you are using, the one that you can afford, the one that you can buy now. I'm going to show you a couple that I have, and they're both cold press juicers. And I'm going to bring out my little, it's like a little cup or something. This is my little cup here. So this is an Omega juicer. And I'm going to put the cord to the side. So what the juicer does is it gets rid of all of the pulp. And this runs off of an auger that basically masticates the juice. It basically presses the juice so it gets rid of the pulp. And what happens is the juice comes out, every one of the juicers has a feeder. So here's the feeder on this one. And they've got a little feeder with a little tamper that you can use to push things down. And here is my auger. And the auger will go around and basically the auger is what is going to press and crush the vegetables. That's what it does. It crushes the vegetables. And I have this piece here that goes on the end is really the filter for it. So I'm going to put those two together. Hang on. And I basically just put it in here. And then I've got the little end pieces. So it's not too complicated. Let me put the auger in first, make sure it's in. So you get the auger in. I put my filter on. And then I have my pieces that keep the auger in place. I got 2 of them here. You need 2. I believe the way it works is that intuitively, I guess from a physics perspective, when the auger is going this way, you need something so it doesn't unscrew this end. So it actually is the opposite to keep it in place. And that's it. This is my juicer. I have a couple of bins, one to put the juice in and one to put the pulp in. And so what happens is the juicer actually separates most of the juice from the pulp. Although there is some pulp in the juice, but very little. And you can also, there's a strainer that you can have. I think I left the strainer in the box because I don't use it, but you can get a strainer that you can put on top of here so that you're taking out more of the pulp. But I'm not a pulp fan at all, but I don't find it a lot of pulp. It's very small amount. And this is basically all it is. And you just feed your vegetables through here. I think the important thing is that you watch when you're buying your juicer that you have a feeder that this feeder is a bit on the small side. So you do have to make sure that you wash and cut your vegetables up. So this is one. And this is, I think I paid, I'm going to guess about $500 for this, but I've seen these for about $200, and that's Canadian on Amazon. So you can buy these for a decent price, but definitely a juicer is an investment. I have a client who bought the Ninja version that's very similar to this, a little bit different style looking, but it does exactly the same mechanics. And it was $150 at Costco. And that's Canadian, that's not US. I'm sure in the US, it probably costs even less. All right, so this is one type of juicer that I have to show you. Now the other one, and I'm gonna make juice with both of them. The other one I have is called the Nama J2 juicer. Now this one is a newer style of juicer because it has all the stuff that you put into the juicer, you put into this hopper here. And I can take the hopper off. Maybe I can take this off and show you. So the hopper has, all right, the hopper has a little blade here, and it's plastic blade. It's not a sharp blade. I don't know if you can see, there's a blade in here that spins around. And what it does is it feeds the vegetables through this little opening here. So you can see there's an opening. So if on this side, you see the opening, and this blade will run around it, and that blade will keep the vegetables feeding into the juicer is here. So this is where I have the auger. So this is the auger on this one. It's a bit fatter than the other one. And all of the vegetables and fruits, they feed from this hopper here into the juicer part, the auger, and then they come out the bottom. So this side is where your juice comes out, and this side is where your pulp comes out. And then you need to wash it. So I'm going to put it back together. And so what this one does is it means that you don't have to feed everything. You just put everything in the top and it feeds itself. Oops, let me put it the right way. And then you just turn it on. Now, if you don't have the lid on, it won't work. There's a safety lever. So you can't put your fingers in and cut your fingers off. So as soon as this lid is down, it will work. But as soon as I pull the lid up, it's got a safety catch. It will not work. And then I have my 2 containers again. The juice one goes on this side. And this one also has the other side for the pulp. And it's got a little spigot here that you can put up and down. And I have done this before where I forgot that I had the spigot down. So when the spigot here is down, it doesn't have, none of the juice comes out. As soon as it's up, the juice comes out. So when you're changing things around, it's a great way to keep the mess under control because it will stop the flow of the little drippings of the juice. But I know I've forgotten about that and I'm juicing and I'm like, why isn't anything coming out? And it's all just collecting in the bottom. And then once you open it, it all comes out. And that is how a juicer works. So there's two juicers. I don't know if there's any questions before we get started. I'm going to make two juices as homage to the fact we're in spring and we're coming up to summer. I'm going to make a lemonade today. So I've got a lemonade and I've also going to do a juice that's a lemon lime juice. They're very similar, but there's a couple of different variations to them. And I just want to show you how the juicers work. So I don't know. I'm just going to check the comments because I know we have some. Yeah, so Juju has the same one. Oh, you have the same J2. And oh, and you made the soup with your blender. Beautiful. Yeah. I feel like the blender there's different things you can do with the blender, make soups, you can make that beautiful desserts and stuff. And the juicer is just about making juice. But remember, juice is like an IV transfusion of nutrients into your body. It's the fastest way to get nutrients in. And a lot of times when we have low energy, it's because we don't have the nutrients. But let's get going. Let's make our juice. All right, I'm going to do two juices. All right, so I'm going to bring out my cutting board and my knife. I have my beautiful chef knife. I forgot to bring it out before we started. I'm going to start with a couple of lemons. And so these lemons are organic and I've washed them already. If you can, for lemons, if you have organic ones, you can actually put the peels right into the juicer. And because I'm using my Nama 2, I don't have to worry about the size, but I do like to cut it down so it's easier for it to go through the hopper here. So I'm going to put in that, and I'm going to put a couple of lemons. I'm going to start with my lettuce, which is my leafy green. I'm using romaine lettuce today. And I like to put the fruit or the vegetables that are leafy on the bottom because those are the ones that are lighter, and I put the heavier vegetables on top to allow them to sit on top of it. And I've just got some some romaine lettuce. And the beautiful thing, so this romaine is perfectly good, but my kids will not eat this because it has a little bit of rust around the edges, and that's okay. I'm going to cut it off a little bit and throw it in, just a few leaves of lettuce. And so one of the things that I've done, I don't know, Juju, if you do this, when I am at the store, I'll go to the day old or the produce that's past its prime, and they're having trouble selling it because it doesn't look so good. It's still good to eat. Maybe it has bruises on it, but those are beautiful for juicing. They're amazing. So this is a great thing about juicing. It doesn't have to look good. It just has to be clean, and always try to get organic if you can. So we could go into a whole show about organics too. And I've got some celery here I'm going to add in. And I've got, well, that was no good. Okay, I'll got to get that. And then I've got apples here. So I would do one apple, but these are small apples, so I'm going to do two. And I like to cut around the core. You can put the core in if you want, but I'm not crazy about putting the seeds in. They will go out the side with the pulp. But I have heard somewhere that there's a little bit of arsenic in, not enough to kill you. And I know some people eat the seeds of the apple, so it doesn't hurt you, but I'm good. So I just take the cores off. And I have a cucumber. I'm going to take half a cucumber. Cucumbers and celery are amazing hydrating vegetables that are really good for hydration, and they add so much liquid, like your lettuce, your kale. They hardly feel like you put them in the juicer, you feel like you get nothing out of them, and I'll show you on the other juicer. But when you do celery and especially cucumber, you get a lot of juice out of them. So I like to do that. And this particular cucumber was a little bit frozen on the end, but it's still good. And so I filled up my hopper I got to go get my lid. I just rinse off my lid from falling on the floor. And I got to put my lid back on here. And then all I need to do is make sure I've got my buckets in place and turn it on. And I can walk away from that now. And it's going to make a beautiful lemon juice. Ooh, I haven't used zucchini too much, but that's a good point. Zucchini is a great one to use too. All right. And you can see the pulp coming out this side and the juice coming out. Can you see the juice coming out? We'll get this out of the way. Oh, I was going to put ginger in too. So what I can do with my ginger, again, I've washed it and I'm okay to just put the ginger in. I've washed it and just put it in this. So I could just put it in the hopper. You put this little piece in as well. And away you go. We are getting a beautiful juice. And this one comes with a tamper as well, but I never use it. I never seem to need to use it. I use it. This works beautifully. When I do beet leaves, I cut them up because the leaves will get tangled in the blade that's going around to feed things. But that's it. And it's pretty much gone through. And then I can close the spigot because I don't want the drips coming off. You can, if you've got your pulp, you can actually use it. I know somebody who gives the pulp to their birds. You can use it for your compost, to put it out in your garden. You can use, if I'm doing carrots, I'll use the carrot pulp in crackers. You could put it into a soup as part of a soup as well. So there's lots of things you can do with the pulp to make sure you're not wasting it. And that is a green, let me just get rid of more juice. And then I've got this beautiful green juice here. I got to get a glass so I can have a taste. And so this is the Nama J2. This is the latest kind of model of the juicer that's out now. And very convenient and easy to use. And then for cleanup, you want to take everything apart. They give you brushes that come with it to clean it up. So I'm going to put this juicer to the side and we're going to show you how to use the Omega juicer. All right. So I do have a little bit of floaty stuff in here, but not a lot. So there's a little bit of pulp in here. I think it's coming from the little bit from the cucumber. And here we have the other juicer. So this one is a little, I don't know if I would call it clunkier. I don't think that's the right word. But it is definitely like it's sitting on your counter. The other one is upright, so it's easier to sit on the counter. And I leave my J2, my Nama one that I just showed you, out on the counter. This one's too big for me to leave on the counter, so I have it in my cupboards. But I actually have traveled with this one. This one is easy to travel with. I was able to put all this into my suitcase, and then I just carried this little pup around with me. I was like I had my own little puppy with me. All right. So on this one, we're going to make a lemon lime, which is very similar, but you'll see that you do need to stand and feed the feeder. So let me get my things out. And I've got this is for the juice and this is for all of the pulp. So I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going to start with the lettuce. And I just wanted to show you, it's dripping. So let me take this. For all that lettuce that I did, that's probably a full salad, there's not a ton of juice. Like it's maybe a quarter of a cup. So you don't get a lot of juice out of your, it feels like you're not getting a lot of juice out of your, like your leafy greens, but they're important and they've got lots of good things. I'm going to add my celery next. In the little bit of cucumber, I'm going to cut it into 4 so it fits in the chute, the feeder here. And you get lots of juice from cucumber. Add in a little bit of ginger. Now you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm going to add in a lemon. And again, I'm leaving this rinds on for the lemon. It's like lemon zest. Now I've got some limes here this time, and lime has got more bitterness to the rind, so I'm going to take the rinds off. I just cut around, and it says if I leave some on, it's not a big deal, but the idea is to get most of it off. Let me get this off. And I have some apple here. Now I don't have any more green apples. I usually use green apples. But you can use any apple that you've got, especially if they're not at their prime. They're easy to use. When they're a little bit past when the family will use them, that's perfect. Bring myself a glass. That's mostly it. Lots of pulp here stuck on the end. I'll just clean that out. It's stringy here. So it's staying on because there's something stringy. I think it's the part of the lemon on there. And that is, juicing is really easy. I'm not going to use this pulp for anything. I'm going to compost it. So I'm going to add that back in. And this one, you don't have the little spigot. I know on the one my client got, the Ninja, it has a little spigot that you can put in place so that the drippings don't come out. But I'm going to use this bowl for the drippings. Get rid of this out of the way. And here we have, this is our lemon lime juice. Let me get a spoon. Stir it up. And all those amazing nutrients. Just going to have a little bit because I got one glass. All right, ladies, cheers. Now that is lemonade. Woohoo. A little bit of pucker power there. I love it. Pucker power. Let me bring you to my thing. All right. So Juju says she gives the pulp to her dogs. I should try that. I haven't done that before. I should try that for the pulp. That sounds cool. I mean, my dogs eat mostly anything. All right. I don't know if there's any questions. I am going to share my screen and we're going to go through a little bit of the presentation here. I'll share it. All right. So a little bit. So I mentioned juicing is like an IV of nutrients. I'll tell you a little story. It's not my story. It comes from my mentor. And she had a client or has a client who was in a very weak way. She had been in an accident, I believe, and had a lot of mobility issues. And she barely could get herself off of the couch. And she started just doing some juicing. And I believe she literally brought the juicer to her coffee table and juiced it from the couch. And she did that every day and you can have a lot of juices in a day. So she did that every day, and slowly but surely her energy picked up, because one of the reasons why we are low on energy is because our cells in our body are missing the nutrients that they need to actually run efficiently. And that's what causes the energy drain. And so on a overall basis, juicing is a great way to get the nutrients into your body. It's easy to digest because it's already done. It has all the fiber removed, so it's easy to just go straight to the bloodstream, and you can improve your energy because our cells regain some of the vitality that they were missing when they get the nutrients. And I'm not talking macronutrients. So macronutrients are protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Those are our three macronutrients. The micronutrients are the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the antimicrobials. All of those beautiful nutrients are what our body needs, what our cells need. And our body is very smart. It's an engineering feat that we could never replicate. And what it does is it actually decides what is the area of our body, what cells need the energy the most and need the nutrients. And our body is smart enough to figure out where it needs to deploy those nutrients. And so you and I could both drink this same juice, and it's going to have a different impact on our body depending on what our body is most needing. What's the priority for our own body? It's not going to be the same thing. And I think that's so interesting. And I think I love some of the things that Steve Jobs talked about when he was on his deathbed, when he had pancreatic cancer. And he said, health is our true wealth. A $300 watch and a $30 watch both tell the same time. And another thing that he said is that if you don't look after your health, or sorry, what did he say? But if you don't look after your health, you'll need to look after your illness. So you can eat the foods for your health, or you'll have to eat the pills for your illness. So I love for us to all be proactive and look at getting these nutrients in before we end up in a crisis situation. And a lot of times when people get cancer, they get diabetes, these illnesses have been brewing in our body for a long time. We just don't know it. And then when it comes out is when it's already in crisis. It's like that 5 alarm fire. So when, we have the inflammation, which is what chronic disease is, chronic inflammation in our body, it's like a smoldering fire. When it actually presents itself and we see it is when it's already a 5 alarm blaze. And I actually have a client, that's what happened to her. She was working on improving her health, but she ended up in a real crisis situation. And so now it feels like it took 1 minute for the crisis to show up, but it was there in the background. And now getting back to health is taking a long time to restore her body. But the truth of the matter is, it was there. It was there. We just don't see it sometimes. So let's talk about the benefits of juicing. I want to give you a few minutes on that. So number one, it increases our intake of fruits and vegetables. If you can imagine all those fruits and vegetables that I juiced, getting them in one day might be a little much for you, or maybe you can get them in, but I can also get more in, and I've got my vegetables and fruits for the day. It enhances our nutrient absorption because we've taken away the fiber, and we're now looking at the pure nutrients to go into our body. It boosts our overall health, and I want to say it's a natural way to boost your energy. It also is a great way for us to detoxify our body and get in some hydration. You get bonus points for drinking juices because it is going to hydrate you. You don't always have to do water, but you need to have hydrating foods, and juice is great. It also supports our brain health and aids in our digestion. And we can customize it to ourself, lots of different vegetables and fruits that you can juice. I do recommend you go about 70% vegetable and 30% fruit. And green apples, this seems to be the apple of choice for juicing because it's not as sweet as the other ones and doesn't spike the blood sugar as much, which is one of the things. There are people who will say you should not juice. You'll see there's a lot of confusion about should you juice, should you do smoothies? And I am an advocate for both. I think they're both great ways to get your nutrients into your body. If you're doing a smoothie, you're still getting the fiber. If you're doing a juice, you've taken all the fiber out. That's the main difference. And I used to have a colleague who would say, oh, aren't you getting too many other things in as well as the juice? And the truth of the matter, and I'm getting that IV of nutrients coming in to my body. And yes, there may not be any fiber, but I'm getting the nutrients. And the other thing, when you're juicing, unless you're doing like a 7-day juice cleanse or detox, which you can do, the rest of the time you're actually eating food with it. So I recommend you have your juice with your meals. You can, and I'll talk about how you can store your juices and what that entails so that you don't have to be necessarily making them all day, every day, but have the juice with your meals as well. Now, then some people will say there's a high sugar content, but again, you want to make sure you're getting your veggies in as well. So as I mentioned, 70% veggies and 30% fruit. And there's some people that will say nutrients in balance. If you're eating or drinking the same juice every day, then maybe. I know that there's a big benefit for carrot juice or carrot apple ginger. And if you drink a lot of it, you might start seeing some yellow or orange skin. But it's still good for you, and have some other juices as well. And also make sure you're eating properly. In terms of caloric intake, I think that anything else, I don't put any stock in the calories. It's all about eating nutrient dense foods, and our body will take care of everything. So if you are counting calories, come talk to me, because that's something that we can do away with. I think there's a urban legend about having to count calories. Cost. So the cost of a juicer is one thing to keep in mind, but I think that they've really come down in price. Now that Nama 2 that I showed you, I bought that a couple of years ago, and they don't deliver to Canada. Like, they'll deliver to Canada, but they don't actually have distribution in Canada at the time that I bought mine. So I paid a pretty price, one with the exchange rate and with the delivery. but you can buy good ones in Canada. And I believe now there are other people who are manufacturing the similar models to the Nama 2. Don't know if they're any good, but there are other options out there that you can get in Canada. You don't have to go to the US. It's time consuming. Again, I'll show you some ways that you can improve that and make more than one juice at a time. The dental health, there's also people will say that if you're drinking the juice, you have the acids and the sugars on your teeth. I would suggest that you make sure that you're rinsing your mouth or making sure that you're brushing your teeth. That's very easy. And they do have a short shelf life, and I'm going to go through that with you in a second, what the shelf life is like. So I wanted just to mention a couple things because there's a lot of attention to spinach and the oxalate content. So spinach is high in oxalates, and that's a natural compound that can bind to calcium and form kidney stones if you're sensitive to that. It also can interfere with mineral absorption, which will affect your bone and nerve health. We're talking when you're doing high concentrates. And again, juicing does concentrate the compounds. So you may want to not do too much spinach when you're juicing. Same thing with kale. Raw kale contains goitrogens, which are substances that can interfere with the thyroid function because it blocks iodine uptake. So small amounts aren't harmful, but if you're juicing and consuming it frequently, it may affect your thyroid health, especially if you have a pre-existing condition. So if this is something you're concerned about, either for your thyroid or for the spinach and the kidneys, then I would suggest not to juice them, not to eat them raw, but you can eat them cooked or steam them. You can put a handful of spinach into a lot of different things. Even the soup we made on Monday, where we did the curry, cauliflower, and red lentils, 10 minutes to the end, you could put in a little bit of spinach, a big handful actually, and it really cooks down. And then you're getting spinach, and that will remove the concern about the oxalates. And same thing with kale. You can put some kale into anything, but that's just a warning for you in case you're concerned about that. So there's a lot of common ingredients that you can juice, and they have amazing health benefits. I'm not going to go through all of this in detail. There's carrots, beets, celery, cucumber, apple, and ginger. Great. Ginger is great for digestion. And if you've got nausea, like ginger ale, or I think you can buy what is that? Oh, but they have ginger in it. Oh, if you have nausea, gravel. So they all now sell ginger gravel. So just have some ginger if you have nausea. Lemon is great. It's a real great detoxifier. It's refreshing. Make your lemonade drink. It's high in vitamin C. Pineapple is great. If you are doing pineapple, include the core. There is a lot of bromelain, which is the enzyme that helps with digestion. In the core is a lot of bromelain. So if you are having gut issues, pineapple juice with the bromelain in your juice is really a great way to help with your gut health. Mint is great. I could put mint in this, either just to put the mint in and let it sit and permeate into the juice, or I could juice some mint. And they recommend doing it at the beginning before you start everything else. It's still just starting to be spring. I have lots of mint in my garden, but there's no mint ready to go. And you can buy a little bit of mint for a lot of money here in my region. So I'll wait till my garden has lots of free mint in it. Turmeric you can put in. You could just take a little knob of turmeric and add it in. It's great for your anti-inflammatory, it's antioxidant properties. And yeah, one of the things with turmeric, it can be messy to work with. Just be careful of that. You can put in herbs like parsley, cilantro, any of that stuff. So lots of things you can juice for sure. And you can play around with recipes as well and find what works for you. So I just want to go through the types of juicers. We've looked at a couple. So the first one I want to talk about is the centrifuge juicer. So this basically, the basket that I'm showing you here on the right side it spins around. And when you feed the fruits and vegetables in, they fly to the side and they end up with all of the speed of that basket turning around. They go through the little holes that are on the basket. So the gray part is the basket, and the holes it's got holes. So they'll go through the holes. And they are really good for hard vegetables like carrots and apples and beets. Lettuces and stuff, they're not so good with, but they're also very economical. And this one is a Breville. This is similar to the one I started with, the juicer I started with. And it has a nice heavy duty motor, and it's got a nice thick big opening to feed your vegetables and apples. I think you could put a small apple in whole into that. It's pretty big to feed the vegetables. Then there's the masticating or cold press juicers. This is the Omega that I just showed you, very similar to what I just showed you. And you can see the auger here. And there's many versions of this out. So this is a step up from so one of the things with the centrifuge is that people will say it creates heat because it's flying around and spinning around, and that will degrade the vitamins and enzymes in the juice. And so they are probably the masticating is better because it doesn't create that heat. It crushes the vegetables instead of spinning around. And so this is not degrading the juice as much. And then there's the twin gear juicer. And this one has 2 gears. So it's actually masticating it even more. And you will get less pulp. There'll be less water in your pulp. It does a better job, but they're also more complicated. And this thing here, I think this Green Star, which is a really high quality juicer, is definitely over $1,000 for that one. So they're more expensive. They also have more parts to them. I don't know that they're harder to clean because I have a client who has the Green Star and the Nama J2, the one I showed you the first time, and she actually likes her Green Star better because there's less water. It definitely does a better job of getting all the juice out of the vegetables. All right, so here's just a little rundown. The centrifuge spins at high speeds, as I mentioned, so it shreds the produce and extracts the juice through centrifugal force. It's fast, affordable, and really good on hard fruits and veggies. And this one, because it creates heat, it will oxidize the juice quickly. You get lower juice yield and not great for leafy greens. Your masticating juicer or cold press juicer, which is the 2 that I showed you that have an auger, those 2 will have more high quality juice yield and it's better for your leafy greens. And you cannot do a wheatgrass juice in a centrifuge juicer, but you can do it in the masticating juicer. And let me tell you, you need quite a bit of wheatgrass to make a thimbleful of juice. But this is a slower process and it's more expensive, although I think that the masticating juicers have come down in price. And so then there's the twin gear juicer, which crushes and presses the produce even more. This one is where you're going to get your maximum nutrient retention and the highest juice yield. So this is the king of the juicers, but it's also the most expensive and the slowest, and it's also bulkier. So you want to decide what's best for you. And if you're just trying it out, start with something that's affordable. You can try it, see if you like it, but I highly recommend this being the one thing to help get nutrients into your body. And then the last thing I want to talk about as we wrap up is the fresh versus stored juices. And the difference. So when you make it fresh and you drink it, you've got the maximum nutrients and enzyme, and there's no oxidation. It will taste the best. And so if you are doing on the Eat Real to Heal program, especially if you are trying to reverse chronic disease, we're going to recommend at least 3 juices a day. And so it's time consuming if you're making 3 juices a day and cleaning. I wouldn't say it's time consuming to make the juices. It's more time consuming added to clean the juicer after is where I think that for me, that's the time that feels the most to me. But you can also store the juices for 1 to 3 days if they're cold pressed, and that saves time. It retains most of the nutrients if you store it properly. You will lose some vitamins and it'll have some oxidation. You can have some down degradation of the taste, but I honestly don't taste that. And if you wanted to store it for 3 or more days, this is still better than buying it from the store, although that is an option to buy cold pressed juices from the store. They're pretty expensive, but this can be convenient, but you will have the most nutrient loss and you may not taste the freshness. So how long does juice last? If you're in a centrifuge juicer, they recommend that you have your juice within 24 hours. The cold press one that I showed you, up to 3 days, 2 to 3 days, if it's stored correctly. And then the twin juicer is more that can last 4 to 5 days because it has the maximum nutrient retention in it. And in terms of saving your juices, first of all, you're saving time and you might get more consistency of your juice. And what I would say is then you can make more juices at once. Store them in an airtight glass jar. So this is where our mason jars filled to the top can help. That'll reduce air exposure and oxidation. Put the lid on and keep them airtight. Refrigerate them immediately to slow the nutrient loss. Hey, adding lemon or lime, which we've got our lemonade and our lime lemon juice, will naturally act as a preservative, that vitamin C. That's why they use a lot of ascorbic acid in some foods. You could use a vacuum sealer if you have. And although it's not ideal, you could freeze them for a week or so if that is more beneficial for you or you need to do that. I think it's better to do that than to not do it at all. And I've got a couple of recipes from what we did before. You can use a lot of things. So I had pineapple, cucumber, romaine, which is a very nice, mild leafy green, apples, celery, lemon, and fresh ginger. So it's got a lot of the same ingredients that we did here. The other one, I did a grapefruit beet juice last time, which was grapefruit with carrots, beets, red cabbage, green apple, cucumber, and ginger. So lots of things you can do with it. And I think I also had this green vitality juice, which is very similar to the Eat Real to Heal program, one of the juices, and that's Swiss chard, romaine, beets or beet leaves, red cabbage, green pepper, and a green apple. So those are some of the things. Oh, I have my wisdom from Steve Jobs, and that is, don't let success blind you. You can employ someone to drive your car, but you can't hire them to take care of your illness. He also said, cherish the simple joys. The joy in life doesn't come from material things. It comes from love, connection, and memories. And don't live someone else's life. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life or what somebody else wants you to live your own life. And I'm just going to stop sharing and check out the chat. Ooh, Juju says she drinks mint tea. I love mint tea. I went to a store. Can I tell a little story? And then if there's any questions or we can sign off for the week. But I went to a restaurant in Western Canada and they had mint tea. So they brought me the tea to the table and it was mint leaves, a couple of sprigs of mint leaves and hot water. And then just sat there and it was $6 for that mint tea. And I thought, wow, what great tea. You don't even have to have dried mint tea. Just take some mint from your garden, if you have mint, wash it, put it in a cup, couple of leaves, not just the leaves, but a sprigs of them. And just add some hot water and let it steep for 5 minutes. And you have a beautiful mint tea. Such a great inspiration, Juju. I love it. It's so good. And if you have mint in your garden, it grows like a weed. And I could say that because I do not have a green thumb and my mint keeps growing and growing. All right. I am so thankful that you joined me today. I hope that you'll think about doing one of the suggestions. Juju already made some soup in her Vitamix, which is great. Make a soup, make a smoothie. make a soup on the stove, throw some vegetables together and make a beautiful vegetable soup. You can take your vegetables, roast them in the oven, then juice them, put them in the juice, put them in your Vitamix with some broth. And there's another way to make a beautiful juice, add a few spices to it. Do a juice, do some overnight oats, make an energy balls, and some really easy ways to get some nutrition into your day so that hopefully you take some of the other stuff out. All right. On that note, I hope you ladies have an amazing weekend.